Hi, fourth grade. Welcome back to your math lessons. We are going to be working on our last lesson in this chapter about circles. So for today's lesson, you'll need to have out your math textbook, your math journal, and your practice workbook. Please get your math journal out, label it with the label 20.7 circles, and open in your textbook to page 534. You'll then need to copy down these vocabulary words and the pictures for samples of the vocabulary. Once you're finished, then we'll continue our lesson together. So go ahead and pause the video and get your vocabulary written down for the day. All right, fourth grade, so you should have written down that vocabulary, and make sure that you draw in the samples at the end of each vocabulary as well. Those will be really helpful as we go about our lesson today. So we are going to be talking about circles today. So circles are closed figures that aren't made of lines. They're made of points that are the same distance from the center, and their edges are curved. So the outside of a circle is not called a line because lines have to be straight. However, circles are still closed figures, and what makes them a circle is that every point on the edge of the circle is the same distance from the center. So this little blue square right here is a good example of that. This is called circle P because that's the name of the point in the center. So a circle is named by the middle point. That's the center. And all of the points along the edge of the circle are all the same distance from that middle point there. That's what makes it a circle. A center is the middle of the circle, and it's the name for the circle. So that's how you'll know how to refer to the figure, is whatever the middle point is. A chord is a line segment that has its end points on the circle. For this example here, we see circle P. There's points A and B, and there's a line segment running through it. The end points are on the outer edge of the circle, and the line segment is running through it. That's not part of the circle. That's just called a chord. It's a measurement from two end points on the circle. Diameter is a very important word that you'll need to have in your mind as we go through this lesson. Diameter is a chord that passes through the middle of a circle. So we often refer to how large a circle is by how far its diameter is from one side of the circle to the other, and it passes through the middle of the circle, which would be the furthest distance across the circle would be through the middle. Then we have the radius. You'll hear that word a lot too. The radius is a line segment with one point in the center and the other point on the edge of the circle. And so it's a not a chord because both endpoints are not on the edge of the circle, but it is a line segment. It goes from the center to the outside. So we're going to be talking about some measuring of circles today. Now, if we were in the classroom, I would have compasses for you all. Now, these compasses are not to tell directions like north, south, east, west. That's a different kind of compass. A compass is a math tool that's used to construct circles. It looks somewhat like this. You don't need to copy this down, but it normally has some form of attachment at the top, and it has one point coming down that's normally like a needle point with a stick for you to hold on to it, and then it crosses down on another side, and this is normally a pencil or a pen of some type. And how this works is you put the needle point down for the center of the circle, and then you keep the needle point down there and turn this around and use the pencil to mark the circle, and it ends up making a perfect circle. Now, this is in no way, shape, or form a perfect circle that I just drew, but that is what a compass is. So I'm going to show you this when we Zoom together today. So if you're watching this later on, after the Zoom has already come or you weren't able to join on, just hear these instructions. I am going to ask you to try to draw a perfect circle using a compass, but most of you probably don't have that at home. So a substitute that you can use is a ruler, 3 rubber bands, and 3 pencils. And what you're going to do is, if I ask you to make a 2-inch circle, then what you would do is you would take 2 of your pencils and you would rubber band them together with a rubber band around them like that and an X at the top. And then you would use the 3rd pencil and you'd measure out 2 inches from one side to the other. And you take that 3rd pencil and put it across, and you'd put another rubber band there and another rubber band there. You'd use the one as the point and the other as the tip of your pencil so that you're able to draw it around in a circle. So do sketch this out with me so that you know what to do. I just want you to try this at some point today. Try making a compass, or if your family has a compass for drawing circles, that'd be great. And that way you can try it out. Now, whatever the length is between, sorry, not a 2-inch circle. Let me back up. This would be a circle with a 2-inch radius is what I should have said. So this should be a circle with a 2-inch radius. The reason why it's the radius and not the diameter of the circle is because this point here where we have our pencil coming across 2 inches from the other pencil is just half of the circle. So when I start to draw this circle and I draw it around, it'll look somewhat like this when we're done. The distance from the center to the edge will be 2 inches, and the center to this edge 2 inches, and here 2 inches. And from the center to the outside is called the radius. So at some point today, go ahead and try that. I am going to have you guys try that on a Zoom meeting with me. I'll show you how to do that tomorrow, okay? So, but in the meantime, let's just start applying the vocabulary. If you're not able to practice making a perfect circle with a compass, don't worry about it. So, number 1, we're going to start applying some of this vocabulary. So, a circle has a diameter of 12 inches. How would you find the length of the radius? Okay, well, let's draw this out. So, let's draw a circle. It doesn't have to be perfect. Let's draw a dot in the middle for the center. The diameter is the line, the chord that goes all the way across at the center from one end to the other. And this whole piece here would be 12 inches across. So the radius would be half of that. It would be from the center to the outside. So for this question, we need to think, what is half of 12? That will tell us what our radius needs to be. So I know that if I take 12 and I split it into 2 parts, that's the same thing as dividing by 2. So 12 divided by 2 is 6. So that means that my radius would equal 6 inches. So we can write this down. The diameter, you can label that D. Diameter is equal to the radius times 2. So if they give you the radius, multiply that by 2 to get your diameter. If you're looking for the radius, you're going to take the diameter and you're going to divide it by 2. Okay, so make sure you write those 2 down. If you're looking for the diameter, they probably gave you the radius. Multiply that number by 2. If you're looking for the radius, they probably gave you the diameter. Divide that number by 2. All right, so we have a circle here that I have drawn. Go ahead and draw a circle out on your page. If you want to try using a compass, if you have one, try drawing out one that has a 5 centimeter radius. If you don't have one, then just draw a circle. And what we're going to do is we're going to label it. So draw a dot in the middle for the center. Draw a line out to the edge for the radius. And I want you to put 5 centimeters there as the label, because our directions say construct circle J. So we can label the center J. That's the name of the circle, with a 5 centimeter radius. So I just drew a line out to the edge. That's the radius, and it's 5 centimeters in length. Now, this very well might not be true. I just drew this circle before I started this presentation. So I did not measure that. So I kind of doubt that this circle is 5 centimeters. But this label will tell us that that's what we're looking for. So for numbers 2 through 4, we're going to label the circle with these different pieces to make sure we understand the vocabulary of a circle. So number 2 says to label the radius JA. So we've already drawn the radius as 5 centimeters. So the radius has one endpoint is the center, and the other is on the edge of the circle. So it wants us to label the radius JA. So I already have J as the center, so I just need to add A for the other endpoint. So now this radius is line segment JA, and it's 5 centimeters in length. Then it wants us to label a chord EF. So remember, a chord is just a line that goes across the circle with both endpoints on the edge of the circle. So I'm going to do that up here. I'm going to put one endpoint there and one on the other side. I'm going to label this EF like number 3 asks. And then I'm going to connect a line between them. So now this is a chord EF. That was for number 3. So we'll label this. This was number 2. This is number 3. And then for number 4, the diameter BC. Diameter is the line that stretches all the way across the center of the circle from one end to the other. So I'm going to do that now. Now I can continue out this way, but I'm going to show you why we shouldn't do that. So I'm going to draw in red. You don't need to draw this, but if I draw here and label it B like it says, and I go across, now even if I continue all the way over to here, this diameter would say BA, but it wants BC. So I need to actually draw the diameter across the center of the circle in another way. So it doesn't always have to be connected to a line where you drew the radius. It can be in another area as well. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that up. Again, I had my radius showing here, JA. I'm going to do the center diameter line in another spot. So I'm going to do it across. Let's see. I think I'll do it diagonally like this. As long as it goes straight across the circle and the endpoints are on the outside of the edge of the circle, then we're fine. We need to label it BC, like number 4 says, and this is number 4. The diameter stretches across. It's a chord that goes across the center of the circle. All right, let's continue. Numbers 6 through 8. We're going to construct circle L with a 2-inch radius. So if you have a way to measure that out perfectly, do it. If you don't worry about it. Just draw a circle with me. So I'm going to go ahead and actually get rid. Can I get rid of that circle? No, I cannot. Sorry, friends. Okay, I'm going to just draw my own circle with you. I'm going to draw it a little bit bigger. Now, it's okay if it's not perfect. I'm not using a compass either right now, so that's all right. But draw a circle, draw the center in the middle, and this is circle L. So this center point is called L. So label it L. Number 6 says radius LN. Remember, the radius is the point from the center to the outside edge of the circle. Now I could draw this across like this. I could also draw it this way. I could draw it that way. Any which way I want to go is totally fine. That's still the radius, and it will always still be the same length. So this is 2 inches here, and this is 2 inches here, and this is 2 inches over here, because the circle radius and diameter do not change because it's the point from the center to the outside. So I need the radius to be labeled LN. So I'll label the other side N, and this is for number 6. All right, number 7, the diameter needs to be XY. So I'm going to go ahead and connect that with another radius that I start doing. I'm going to just continue this one over here. I'm going to dot my end points on the edge of the circle, and the diameter this time needs to be XY for the label. So remember, the diameter is the chord that stretches all the way across the circle, crossing at the center point. Then number 8, we need a chord labeled ST. A chord just needs to be a line going across the circle with its endpoints both on the edge of the circle. So this is chord ST. That was for number 8. The label this one was for number 7 down here. All right, for numbers 9 through 12, we're going to use the drawing of this circle in our textbook and a centimeter ruler. Well, I don't have a centimeter ruler, and you probably don't have a centimeter ruler. So let's see here. Let's do this instead. Yeah, if you don't have a ruler, this is kind of hard to solve. So let's see, is there another way we can do this? For numbers 9 through 12, use the drawing of circle Z and a centimeter ruler. Copy and complete the table. Okay, this is what we're going to do instead. We're not going to be able to measure it, and that's okay. But we are going to label what vocabulary word the line segment is showing as part of the circle. So let's do that part at the very least. So we have ZY here. Let's copy the circle into our journals too. So go ahead and draw the circle, draw the center. The center this is circle Z. Let's do what it's asking first, which is ZY, which is on the outside of the circle. So that part coming from the center to the outer edge of the circle is called the radius. So number 9, the answer is radius. Number 10. Number 10 is ST. Line segment ST. So looking at the circle, that's here ST. Coming across, both endpoints are on the edge of the circle. It's not going through the middle though, so that is just called a chord. Number 11 is line segment ZW. Here we have line segment ZW is coming up like this. Do you notice that one point is the center and the other is on the edge? Do you remember what that's called? That's called the radius. All right, and number 12, XY. All right, so let's expand this part out here. X all the way to Y goes, the line segment has endpoints on the outer edge, so it's a chord, but it's going through the center this time. So a chord that goes through the center is called, do you remember? The diameter. All right. All right, let's take a look at this picture, this diagram, and see if we can answer some questions about it. Number 13, the strength of a hurricane is measured by its size and force of its winds. What is the radius of Hurricane A in miles? Ooh, okay. So these are labeled, these lines are radius of tropical storm force winds in miles. So let's break this down together. So we're looking at Hurricane A, which is this one here. So I see that if we're starting at the center, which is this line 0, we need to find the radius, which would be coming out to this point here. I read this diagram by looking at the label of that line that I'm at. So starting from 0, I have this tick mark, and then one more. If I look up to the top here, that's telling me that it's 100 miles per hour. So that means that this distance here, my radius of the hurricane, is 100 miles. 100 miles is that radius of Hurricane A. Number 14, what is the diameter of Hurricane B in miles? So now this time we're looking at Hurricane B, which is this guy here. Again, starting from the center. Now, I don't see measurements going across this other blank empty half of the circle. So I'm going to need to remember what I taught you at the very beginning of the lesson about if they only give us the radius, how we find the diameter. So let's find the radius first. So we're coming here all the way out to the edge of the circle. Let's follow this line up to see what it says. It says 200 miles. So we know that the radius is 200 miles, but it's not asking for the radius. It's asking for the diameter. So I told you at the beginning of the lesson, if you're trying to find the diameter, you're going to take whatever the radius is, and you're going to multiply it times 2. And take the radius and multiply it by 2. The reason why is in a circle, from the center to the edge is the same distance. So if this is 200 miles for this circle, we know that on the other side, the radius from the center to the outside will also be 200. So we're doubling it, 200 and 200. Or we can write this as 200 times 2. So 200 times 2, or 200 plus 200, because we're putting two radiuses together to get the diameter, is 400. So our answer is 400 miles. All right. Number 15 says, how much greater is the diameter of Hurricane B than the diameter of Hurricane A? Okay, well, for number 15, we didn't figure out the diameter for that. We only found the radius, but for number 14, we found both. So first, before we can even answer that question, for number 15, we need to figure out the diameter for Hurricane A. So we know that the radius is 100, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take, for the diameter, we're going to take 100, and we're going to multiply it by 2, because we want to know on this circle, we know that this piece is 100, so we know that the piece going the other way is also 100. And that's the diameter. So we know that the diameter for A is 100 times 2, or 200 miles. So circle A, the diameter is 200 miles. For circle B, it's 400 miles in diameter. So 15 is asking how much greater is the diameter of B than A. So it's asking us to compare. Whenever we compare, we're using subtraction. So we're going to do 400 minus 200 to compare the difference. and that will be our final answer. 400 minus 200 is 200. So for our final answer, I'm going to have to write it up here. Circle B, circle B's diameter is 200 miles longer. All right. Well, thank you so much for working with me today. This is your assignment for today. You're going to work on lesson 20.7 PW. You're going to solve all of it. I would like you to make sure that you are drawing a circle as nice and neatly as you can. You'll notice that in the directions, it asks you to draw a circle with a radius of 3 centimeters. If you're able to construct a compass or find one at your house, please practice drawing one that's 3 centimeters for your work. If you cannot find a compass, then in that box for 1 through 5, all you'll do is just draw a circle, label it with the letter M because that's the center. Draw a line out to the side and label that 3 centimeters, even if you weren't able to measure it, okay? Same thing with numbers 6 through 9. If you don't have a ruler, you can't do this length in centimeters part, so you don't need to worry about that portion of it. Just label the parts of the circle. Okay, so I want you to, in just a moment, pause this screen, get out your practice workbook, complete that practice assignment, and then check your own work. I'm going to finish drawing what it should look like for 1 through 5 so that you have that information handy. But you can, in a moment, pause the video and then come back to check your work. Tomorrow's lesson will be a review for chapter 20, and then we will, after that, have a test for Friday online. So I will Zoom with you guys today. So if I've already seen you, then great. And if we haven't met yet, then I'll see you soon.